In this video, we're going to take a look at a black ink by Montblanc Mystery Black. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the black ink playlist, so if you want to see more, you can find that there, but if you click that link, you have to watch every single one start to finish. I'm serious. I'm an ink guy. Let's take a look at the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine took 8 seconds to dry while the medium took 11. The smear test says, the scrubby says there's no color variation. There is none. And the smear test says you could probably recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then, a Pilot E95S with a medium nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video, in all their greatness. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, some minor ghosting, but it's a thin paper, so not so bad. We have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The extra fine took 11 seconds to dry. It is a little bit lighter than the stub. The medium is about the same as, a little bit darker than the extra fine. Not as dark as the stub. I think I'm very caffeinated. Extra fine took 11 seconds to dry while the medium took 19. The scrubby for both give no color variation, but there isn't any in the writing, just from one writing to the other. The smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this was very interesting because it's a very light blue at the bottom, pushing its way up, and a very dark purple at the top. Now, the one on the right that's allowed to dry for 10 minutes, you see that light blue's forming a line on the bottom, giving the idea that it might be a little bit resistant. But we see that light blue is definitely there, and the dark purple at the top still really showing itself. Very interesting for this black ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is certainly lighter in its writing than the stub. The medium's the same tone as the stub. Extra fine took 7 seconds to dry while medium took 13. Scrubby for both give us no color variation. We don't get any shading in the writing, and the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing, so there's good. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it's the capital H blowout that has me concerned about using it in a note-taking situation. I wouldn't. You could if you don't care about your notes. Just my 2 cents there. Water's lifting some of the darkest tones, but still leaving a lot of that dark purple in its place. Pen flush is doing a little bit more than water's doing, because as you see the drop move down, you do see around the edges where some of the white of the paper is getting ready to come through. 1/3 bleach solution completely removed it from the paper. Now to get it out of my pen, water, and that's all that it took. The next writing sample is done on Leuchtturm 1917 paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading in the writing. The extra fine does look a little bit lighter than the stub, and the medium looks darker than the stub. The extra fine took 5 seconds to dry while the medium took 9, and the scrubby shows no color variation. There is none in the writing. Smear test, you could definitely recover the extra fine, maybe, but probably not the medium. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Montblanc's Mystery Black has a viscosity of 2.47, so it's normal and almost average, almost. Now, if you're interested in how the viscosity test and all of that's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. Now let's take a look at TWSBI notebook paper. No bleeding, some minor ghosting at the medium. We have no feather, spread, no halo sheen, no shade, no tone variation from one pen to the other. Extra fine took 5 seconds to dry, medium took 7. Scrubby for both give us no color variation, we're not getting it. And the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Montblanc's Mystery Black has an average dry time of 12 seconds, so it does dry just a little bit faster than normal. The last writing sample is done on crowd favorite 20-pound copy paper. Now there is a lot of significant bleeding into the paper. Strangely, for as much of it's there on the medium, none of it came through and corrupted the page underneath. With both the extra fine and the medium, you cannot use the back of the page. You'll lose both sides of notes, but none of it touched the page underneath, which means you could get away with this if you really wanted to. That's when we get to this side. We get feathering on the medium and the extra fine. We get spread. The medium becomes a broad, the extra fine becomes a fine, maybe close to a medium. We have no halo, no sheen, no shade. Medium looks gross. Just that. The extra fine is a slight bit lighter than the medium. It took 1 second to dry. The scrubby gave us no color variation. We didn't get any shading in the writing. And the smear test, you can't smear it, so you don't have to worry about it. Instead of finding inks that look like Montblanc's Mystery Black, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a magenta ink by Diamine, their Deep Magenta. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Montblanc's Mystery Black? Mystery solved. This is a super dark purple, but since the writing basically looks black, we'll let it slide this time. But I'm keeping my eye on you, Montblanc. It shades. I don't like my blacks to shade. Now, largely as I went through some of the writing samples, I didn't point out shading because I wasn't experiencing it there, but I did experience it on yellow Rhodia paper, on monocoque paper, and on Apica paper. These didn't show up in the writing samples because those were the only 3 that I got shading, and I didn't feel that it was the best representation for this ink. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I think a medium to wet flow fine or medium nib really put down a nice solid tone. I did say that I had a couple that had some shading that I didn't care for. It's why I wouldn't care for a bottle of this. But that was only in 3 papers when I did about 11 different writing samples. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at a shimmering ink by Diamine, their Inferno Orange.